Howdy, folks, and welcome back to Healthy Humor. I'm your host, Doc MB. Now, if you don't follow me on social media, you might not have seen it, but we did have a big announcement last week. Healthy Humor is officially available anywhere that you might be streaming podcasts. If you want to keep up to date with exciting announcements like that, I definitely suggest that you follow or subscribe to the show or to my social media anywhere you can. But as always, I do encourage all of you to like, follow, comment on any of the posts or episodes that you liked. Your feedback really helps me make sure that I'm putting out the kind of content that you all want to see and engage with. So again, thank you to everyone who has already been posting. A big thank you to the individuals who commented last week sharing their own stories around healthcare advocacy and self-advocacy. It was amazing to see how many people's parents made it a priority when they were growing up. So again, thank you to everyone who has been engaging with the content. And if you haven't yet, here's your chance. Go engage with some of the content and let me know what you want to hear, or let me know what you're liking that I'm already putting out. But without any further ado, we will get into today's episode. If you have been paying attention to the news recently, then you've probably seen that there is a pretty big measles outbreak going on right now. Before we get into kind of the ins and outs of measles, I wanted to go ahead and talk about what we say when we mean an outbreak. The CDC has a definition, and essentially what it is that it's more than what is expected. Whatever number of cases is happening in a specific area, at that, within that population, at that time and place, if it's more than what's expected, that's an outbreak. According to the CDC, as of April 6th, 2025, we already have 607 confirmed cases in the United States, which is drastically higher than the total 285 cases for last year, 2024. So we definitely have had several outbreaks happen already this year that warrant some extra attention. The majority of these cases were found in young, unvaccinated individuals, mostly children under the age of 5. You might be asking yourself, hey, Doc MB, I thought that measles were eradicated back in 2000. Well, we did say that we had eliminated them from the United States back in 2000, but measles are still very much prevalent in other parts of the world. And when you have unvaccinated people from the US that travel to these other parts of the world, they might come in contact with measles and then bring it back to the States. And that's typically how we see it arriving here. It's less individuals who are coming from those regions initially come in with it. It's really mostly people from the United States who are unvaccinated that go out, pick it up, and bring it back. So that's how measles kind of hitches a ride into the US, even though we say that we eliminated it back in 2000. So yes, we did a really great job of getting rid of it, but it can still come back from time to time. And right now, there's a lot of measles in the US. So no matter if you are vaccinated, not vaccinated, you plan to travel anytime soon, you're a local area hypochondriac, whatever it is, you should really know what you're looking for, the signs and symptoms, and kind of the ins and outs of measles. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, what are measles? Measles are a very, very contagious and communicable viral disease. The spores get out into the air, the virus gets out into the air from some infected individual who, coughs or sneezes, and they get out in the air, and then someone else breathes them in, and that's how they contract measles. Signs and symptoms of measles. They're going to appear about 7 to 14 days after that initial contact with the virus or potentially infected individual. Those signs and symptoms: very high fever, can spike even above 104 degrees for an infected individual. A cough, so with a runny nose. There will be red, itchy eyes. One of the telltale signs of measles, though, is a red, bumpy rash that typically is kind of centrally located on the chest and the head region. You're worried whether or not you're at risk of contracting measles. Most individuals, it's kind of like most viruses in that, if you're an older adult or a really young kid, you're going to be most at risk. But with this specifically, we really look at those unvaccinated people, and then definitely our unvaccinated older population and our unvaccinated younger population being at the greatest risk. I said earlier that measles spreads, it's an airborne virus. You could come into contact with it, more direct contact, like breathing right next to somebody, but someone coughs or sneezes and they've got the virus, and then you can breathe it in yourself. The crazy thing about the measles virus is it can actually stay alive in a room for up to 2 hours in the air in a room. So, like if I coughed in this room and I had measles, and then someone came in here 2 hours later, very high chance that they're going to contract measles. Measles actually is so contagious that if I did have measles, and then walked into a room and there were 10 other individuals in that room who were all unvaccinated, 9 out of 10 of those unvaccinated individuals would end up contracting measles from me, the one initially sick individual. That's a very high rate. Like I said, it can stay alive for up to 2 hours in a room, and it is incredibly contagious. What you're probably really wondering, though, is how can you protect yourself from getting measles? Our number one solution is get vaccinated, right? Uh, Vaccinations are key in this sort of time. How frequently should you be vaccinated? Well, the great news is you can get 2 doses and then you're probably good for life. So you go get it's called your MMR. It stands for mumps, measles, and rubella vaccination. You get 1 dose, you go get a second dose, and then you should be pretty good to go. Individuals who received 2 doses were actually recorded as being about 97% immune. Well, having a 97% immunity to contracting measles. Those with just 1 dose, it was about 93%. So whether you've had 1 or 2 doses, you're much better off, obviously, than those who didn't get it, who have about a 90% chance of catching it, rather than that 97 or 93% of not catching it based on vaccination. I would encourage anyone who is concerned about their chances of catching measles, or whether or not they might have come in contact with someone who had measles, or just want to find out more about measles, to talk to a family physician or just some sort of healthcare professional that they regularly see. Or, as always, you can comment or email questions to me, Doc MB, at healthy-humor.com. But again, I'm not a medical doctor. I am mostly here to disseminate information to all of you. So if you are very curious about this, I suggest that you use some of the resources that I'll provide in the show notes on the website. I always put, anything that I cite, any statistics or organizations whose information I use will be in the show notes on our show website. But if you have more questions, ask me. I can help you find the right answers, or again, go to your medical provider. And with that being said, I hope everyone has a happy and healthy day.